Hello everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. My name is Kyshira. I am a business strategist and I specialize in helping emerging coaches learn how to create their first high-ticket coaching offer and launch their coaching business online. I also help experienced coaches learn how to scale their business beyond one-on-one and creating passive income products. You can learn all about me at thepowercollective.co. And today I want to have a casual, straightforward conversation with you about lessons I've learned as I am going through the process of actively scaling my coaching business. So if you know someone that could benefit from this, go ahead and share this out with them. I'm going to be a little delayed with seeing comments and questions just because, again, I'm testing out a new setup. So please bear with me. And I'm also going to go ahead and start my intro over because I want this to be a podcast episode. So I do have my little notes in front of me, so let's get into it. So, as I mentioned today, I want to talk to you about lessons I've learned when scaling my coaching practice. This is going to be an installment in our Behind the Brand series that I kicked off last year, and I kept telling you I was going to update it, and I think I've only done maybe 3 episodes, but if you all really enjoy this, let me know and I'll continue to do this. This is my real life. I definitely try to make sure that I'm calling out lessons learned for you and things that I want you to things that I want you to think about. But for the most part, this is like raw reality of like, these are what I'm going through. So some of the things I want to be able to tell you yet. So one question that came through is, do you work with aspiring coaches or experienced coaches? I work with both sets and we have different programs. So we have a program for our aspiring coaches and we have programs for our experienced coaches. So check out thepowercollective.co. So recently, our business has crossed the $250,000 mark in revenue, which still gives me chills when I say it. And for us, that has been the highest revenue we've seen thus far. And we are a small team. I'm still getting used to saying we, us, our. And I do have YouTube content on who's on my team and how I hire and build a team. So I can definitely give you that resource as well. But just to give you the lay of the land, last year's revenue for the whole year was around 170,000, which was major because before that we were right over the 100K mark, right? So there's been continuous growth, increased growth, and scary growth, to be honest with you. So I knew that the business was growing, but I just didn't know how fast that would happen, especially when I realized this was a mindset block I had. I was side hustling for so long and I was so used to delayed dreams and delayed journey that now I'm like taken aback and I'm really shocked when things happen quickly, which is why my reactions and responses sometimes when good things happen are just like, so like what? Delayed? Like I'm not really processing it and I didn't understand why. But that was actually why. I mean, I was hustling for a number of years. And so the realization I had was, with my side hustle journey, it wasn't that things were delayed because they just needed to be hard or because I was doing like things drastically wrong, which, I made a ton of mistakes. But my side hustle journey was my period of kind of like finding myself in entrepreneurship. I mean, I definitely changed lanes. I changed niches. I changed priorities. I mean, there was a point in time when I wanted to be a blogger. You know what I mean? So I was also in my early 20s, and in your early 20s, you don't know what you want, right? Like, you don't know what life is about. And so that's when I'm like, well, now it's different. I'm 30 years old. I turned 30 this year. And I feel like I just stepped into this like zone of clarity around what I want. This year has brought so much clarity around my target audience, my niche, what I want to do, what I want to sell, what kind of human I want to be, what kind of CEO I want to be, and just really stepping into that change and allowing myself to not be put in the box that I've always been in, right? So even now, our messaging has pivoted where we only serve with people who want to be coaches or who are coaches, right? And even that was a scary decision to make around like, no, we're not serving beauty businesses. No, we're not serving, just anybody, right? And yeah, we still have tons of digital tools for you and digital products and classes, and you're always welcome to dive into my free content. But in terms of the services that I provide, it's very clear. We work with people who want to be coaches, right? People who are like new in business, new in entrepreneurship. We work with people who are coaches, but they're not making any money. We work with people who are coaches, but they've like hit the revenue wall. They can't go beyond 101. And then the last segment is people who are business owners, right? They may be boutique owners or beauty owners or consultants, and they want to add coaching to their business model, right? And so it all still revolves around this concept of coaching. And that's why if you've connected with me and you've been following me this year, you notice, oh, this summer I got certified in coaching. I have 5 certifications in coaching, and I'm actively working to continue that. There's a reason for that. I didn't join that coaching program just to get another piece of paper because, number one, waste of money, and number two, I don't have time. And at this point in life, the time investment for me is more important than the money investment. So if I am going to invest time and money into something, it needs to be something that's going to move my business forward versus something that's going to get me a ton of likes on social media. So I didn't make the decision to invest in that program until I was 100% clear that, like, yes, coaches are going to be my priority, because there's just a lot that goes into that. So again, I'm giving you the lay of the land here around like what's going on. So revenue crossed the $250,000 mark this year. That was the year goal, the goal for the year. So the goal for the entire year was make $250,000. Well, we still have 2.5 months left. As of last week, we were around 265 in cash. So this is not payments we're expecting. It's not like I'm looking at payment plans like, oh yeah, guys, once these payment plans hit, we're gonna hit this number. Like, no, this is payments processed, right? So we still have 2.5 months left. And I'm like, well, what's about to happen for the rest of the year, right? And so this is just really propelling us to a new level. And if you've heard me talk about mindset work before, this is why I tell you mindset work just literally never stops, because now it's just this new land and new zone of discomfort and figuring it out that has to occur with that. So I do have a couple of notes around just some of the lessons I've learned as we've been scaling. And it's funny because a lot of people I talk to, it's like scaling is like their goal. And I feel like it's a great goal, but I feel like scaling becomes a priority when it's forced to become a priority, right? Like I think the priority truly needs to be having a viable offer, an offer that's driving results, an offer that is selling, right? Consistent cash flow, strong operations. I think those are better goals and honestly more realistic goals, because once you hit all of those goals, scaling is a natural next step. I do believe that scaling is a new buzzword. It's the new personal branding, where a lot of people are just using it out of context, don't really understand what it means. But it's something, yes, you aspire to, but it's not something that needs to be top priority. The top priority is cash flow. The top priority is, are we seeing this consistent revenue every month? Are we seeing consistent sales with this offer? Are we seeing consistent people getting results with this, right? Are we seeing people becoming brand champions and advocates for us? Are we building the prestige around what we do, right? So that's something to think about. So one of the core lessons that I've learned as we've started this scaling process is that everything that worked for you before will break. So you have to learn now how to lose the attachment you have to all of the stuff that you do, right? A lot of us, we are so attached to certain tools, right? Like to the point where some of y'all will argue people down about why you love this over that, right? Like we're so attached to certain tools and certain ways of doing things that are going to work for you when you are trying to hit 5K a month, 10K a month, maybe even 20K a month. But when you're at 40K, 50K a month and above, those things are no longer going to work. Those tools are no longer going to serve you. Those ways of doing things are just no longer going to be efficient, and you have to let that go. That's literally your comfort zone calling on to you, right? And it's like, if you really want to scale like you said you did, then you have to release some of these things that you're holding on to, because they are just going to slow you down and slow down your growth. Everything that worked before will break. And so we are in this period, full transparency, where we are migrating a lot of our systems. We are leaving Kartra, which y'all know I'm a Kartra lover. I think Kartra is an amazing tool, but for what we are looking to do right now, it's not going to cut it anymore, right? Great tool to start. Use the tool up until 250K, but now we're leaving, right? So that's an example of like something I did not want to do. I love that tool. I know how to use all of the features. It's amazing. but it's just no longer serving me. It doesn't mean that it's a bad tool. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to keep referring it to people, but it's not something that's serving me anymore. Our internal operations, right? There are some things that still work, but a lot of it doesn't. And so that looks like now rebuilding it. I actually have a meeting with one of my team members who is in Pittsburgh next week, to talk through rebuilding our team onboarding, offboarding process, building out our team command center, rebuilding our coaching manuals, really talking through like what are those next step processes, and also thinking through with the new things that need to occur, who's now the new owner for that? Which kind of takes me to a point that's a little bit later down my list, which is, releasing the need to do it all. This is something I've been battling with for 2 years straight, relinquishing control. And I've done a good job, right? Like I've done a good job. I give my team things to do. I keep them busy and it makes sense. But even present day, I am very clear that there are still a lot of things that I'm doing that I really don't need to do. There are still a lot of things that I am doing that in hindsight could be costing the business money, because if you look at the fact that, salaried, right? Like, let me turn my do not disturb on. Why is my phone ringing? Sorry about that. So, when you look at yourself as a salaried employee of your business and you think about how much you pay yourself, right? Envision you had a boss, right? If you're like, hey, let's just throw a number out there. If you are getting paid $500 an hour, as a top level strategic employee who should be working on top level strategic things, but you spend 3 hours scheduling your podcast, you've cost your business $1,500. Your time should have been spent doing the revenue driving thing or the vision driving thing, and then that particular action item could have been given to someone else who has the capacity and the space, and honestly, who's been slotted in the right role to do something administrative like that, right? And so really thinking through, now that we have new processes and new steps that need to be done, because we have new ways of servicing clients and all of that, it's no longer, when am I going to do it? How am I going to do it? It's who is going to do it, and relinquishing that control. Part of the reason why is that, when you are side hustling, right, we kind of build this mentality that it is me against the world, and to a certain extent it is, but then we never lose that, right? And I want you to know, being a one-woman show or a one-man show is not a bad thing. Like, let that sob story go. I was a one-woman show up until beyond 6 figures, so it's something that you can totally still do, but I want you to know that once you hit that threshold, now it's time to switch gears. Now it's time to release those previous beliefs that got you to that place, and then step into this new level of belief so that you can expand and grow the way that you need to. So relinquishing the need to do it all. So I've been very intentional recently about just kind of documenting on a daily basis in just a section of my planner, certain things that I'm doing that I would deem administrative, that I would deem time drainers, that I would also deem not the best use of my expertise, right? So something that's another example, not the best use of my expertise is, for example, I still edit my own YouTube videos, right? Like, I actually enjoy editing, to be honest with you. It's not something like, oh, I just didn't want to I actually enjoy it. But it is something that takes me a lot of time, which is why I typically do it on the weekends. But it's like, let's use that as an example. It's like, okay, well, I'm spending this time editing videos when my time could be better use spent building curriculum, right? Filming trainings, things like that, working on our strategic plan, working on our strategic priorities, working on new team training content, things like that. So I want to kind of give you some examples of like what that looks like for me. So another lesson learned is that investments just get more costly. So I want to bring this up to you because this is really important to understand, right? In the beginning, the big deal is wrapping for me, I won't say for everybody else, for me. In the beginning, a few years ago, the issue was, okay, wrapping my head around investing thousands of dollars into anything, Okay. At that point, your mid 20s, it's like, the only thing that really costs you thousands of dollars is like a home, a car purchase, maybe an international vacation. But for the most part, it's like, for me, I couldn't wrap my head around thousands of dollars being spent on anything. So that was like the big things. Okay. Wrapping my mind around investing $1,500 in a coaching program and then $3,000 into a coaching program. Right. And so what I've learned is that these investments just get more higher. They get more expensive. And I don't like that word expensive, but they just become a higher number. The reason why investments become higher is because you're learning at a higher level, right? And so now you are tapping into subject matter experts. You're tapping into core expertise. You're tapping into more profit driving strategy. You're tapping into things that are more hands on. Like if you want to hire an operations consultant, if you want to hire an online business manager, if you want to hire Facebook ad experts. I'm just thinking about some of the things that I know are just like higher level investments. So even now, I'm in mastermind programs that, range between 25 and 30K and 10K to 30K. I'll give you a range. And it's like, well, the reason why is because one, it requires a higher level of us. We need to show up at a higher level. When you are beyond the 6-figure mark, again, time becomes more of the issue than money. And so a lot of times you literally have to pay to ensure that you show up because you just get so busy. It's easy to write it off. You know what I mean? And then also, again, thinking about like now you're tapping to a different level of expert, right? So really thinking through, the benefit of 5-figure programs. I'm not saying just go and run and throw the coin out the door and just go and invest in the first one you see, but you really want to ensure that you're always thinking about what do I actually need, right? It's no longer just investing in programs that have general promises of, learn how to make 6 figures, but it's really around like what are the core pain points you are experiencing, developing that self-awareness, and then finding the right mastermind that makes sense. So we have a program that we're going to come out with in 2021 for coaches who really need help with this scaling process, who really need help with understanding how to create passive income, but who are also ready to get outside of just the online coaching world. So I get a lot of questions around corporate contracts and influencer work and publishing and speaking and all of that. So our program is going to teach that. Well, again, that is going to have to be a higher level investment than what we currently have because it's going to require more of those clients who are going to be in it. It's going to be also just a higher level of material, higher level of playbooks and trainings and exposure and interactions, but also it's going to increase their revenue exponentially, right? And so really thinking through the return on investment compared to the initial investment, it's like it doesn't even matter anymore, right? It's really just about, changing that perspective and that mindset. That age-old quote, more money, more problems, is like the realest thing I've heard, because the thing is, the more money you have, the more expensive your problems become to solve. If that makes any sense, right? So wanted to just throw that out there for you if anyone's listening who is dealing with money mindset. It's like, again, mindset work doesn't stop. It's going to always continue. So it's always going to be another level of something you need to wrap your mind around. But the biggest thing here to call out is that you have to start to learn how to trust yourself and trust your intuition. Your intuition is going to guide you, right? Like if you are in a position where you're looking like, if you're evaluating people to hire, if you are evaluating coaches to work with or programs to roll into, your gut's going to tell you if something's a red flag, if something feels off, or if something is the perfect match, right? Now, if something's the perfect match, it does not mean that there still won't be fear or discomfort. If you're making your first ever $5,000 investment, yeah, girl, it's going to be a little bit fearful, but it's not going to feel out of alignment for you. It's going to feel like that next step. It's kind of like, I don't know, people who jump out of airplanes, right? Like, I'm sure they're excited about it, but it's still terrifying once they're up there, but they get the adrenaline and they just go for it, right? I don't know why I use it as an example, but either way, like, doing something that's in alignment does not mean it's not going to feel a little nerve-wracking in the pit of your stomach, but just know that it's a part of the journey. Another thing that I've learned when scaling is that self-care is a huge priority. So self-care has always been a priority, right? Like it's always been let me rephrase it. Self-care has always been something that needed to be a priority, but I have not always done a good job of making it a priority. But when you are growing a business, a multi-6-figure business, self-care has to stay top of mind because you are no longer you are no longer just like hustling for the next thing, and you're no longer just solely servicing like your tribe. You are also a manager, a CEO, a boss, depending upon your person, your circle. You're a community leader, right? You might be a head of household, maybe taking care of a family. You're an influencer online, so the more credibility you build, people start to hang on to your word, right? And this is not about how many followers you have, it's about the trust you have with the followers, right? And so this is why, like, I'm all about being your authentic self, but I recognize that, with great power comes great responsibility, so really thinking through, like, there's a lot of pressure that you start to carry as your business grows. There's a lot of pressure that you carry when you are a leader and an influencer, whether you chose it or not. And so what I'm saying here is, this is why self-care is so important, because it is very easy to become drained and to become burned out even when things are going well. It used to be, right, this misconception that overwhelm, burnout, being drained only came when things weren't working, when you were overworking yourself to see some result and it just wasn't coming through, and that's when it happens. Well, no, like, your launch can go perfectly fine. You can have a 60K launch. You can have consistent cash flow. You could be on track with your goals, and you can still be ran down. Okay? So you want to avoid that at all costs. And one thing I've been thinking about is, when you're like high stress and you have a lot going on, it is so easy to neglect the things that are going to help you. Right? Like, it's so easy to make the excuse as to why you can't meditate for 5 to 10 minutes, why you can't do yoga today, why you can't exercise today, why you can't order the salad, even if it's through Uber Eats versus the chicken wings, right? Like, it's so easy to throw those things out. And so I've just been challenging myself, like, we're not taking the easy way out all the time, because I know after that yoga session and after that meditation session, I know, after eating that green meal, like, I know I'm going to feel better, versus the thing that's the easy yes, which is work through it, push through it, ignore it, go through the draft, like those types of things. I want to make sure I'm giving you realistic examples. Those things in a moment are comfort zone decisions, but they aren't going to serve you, and you aren't going to feel good afterwards. And this is like a metaphor for a life. This is just a metaphor for anything, even outside of self-care. It's like, yeah, the easy thing is to say, I can't commit to this right now. The easy thing to say is, I can't make this decision right now. I can't make this investment right now. I can't find the time right now. I'm too busy. Life is happening. Well, life is always going to happen. You're always going to be too busy. You're always going to do the most. You're always going to have things going on. You're always going to be tired. Always going to be this, always going to be that. At some point, we got to relinquish that and do the hard thing, because the hard thing is going to pay off. The easy thing is going to cost us. Right? Let me see. I think I missed a couple comments. Andrea says, it sounds like you're getting clear on what you're wanting to do and how you want to do it. It sounds like getting clear on what you want to do and how you want to do it is really important in finding a program that helps to scale you. Absolutely. And again, scale is a byproduct. Scale is a byproduct of consistent cash flow, strong messaging, strong packaging, consistent clientele. It's going to be a natural next step, right? So really thinking through what is my gap? Right? Because if we haven't analyzed our gap, how can we find a program that will help us with the scale piece, right? So just something for you all to think about. So self-care is definitely top of mind. So then the next lesson that I've learned, this one has been really interesting, is that sometimes the things that you sell, coding onto some of these older offers is a result of you trying to stay in your comfort zone. It's like a result of you trying to cling on to the last little bit of familiar, because you're like 80% into this new world. You're the abundant self you've been trying to call in, but it's scary because it's unfamiliar, right? It's a new place. It's a new feeling. It's a new level. The air feels different, right? And we're looking to and clinging to any little bit of comfort that we can find. And sometimes that even looks like not eliminating an offer that you need to eliminate because you're just so attached to it. You know how to sell it. You know what's going to happen with it, but it's just not going to serve you. And so for me, I've made some big decisions, right? This year, my membership program got eliminated. It's ending this month. One-on-one coaching, the 90-day fast track program is being eliminated by December 31st, right? Going into next year, we're creating a new program, right? High level, mastermind level experience that's going to replace fast track, right? So, and it's going to be amazing. Trust me and believe me. Just stay tuned for that. And it's like, why did this take so long? Right? Like, you all have if you watched Q1 and Q2 case studies, for example, with Fearless Founders, the membership program, that wasn't even a big enough chunk of revenue to show up in the pie, in the graph, right? And it's not that we didn't have members. We had like 95 members, but the price point was just so low that compared to how much money we brought in total everywhere else, that didn't even make a blip in the pie chart. But it's not really about like the money. It's, for me, it's about the time. It's like, this thing doesn't even show up in the graphs, but this is how much time it takes up, right? And I was so anti hearing that. Like, I've been told for over a year to close it down, right? But I was so anti. I'm like, no. I need something for X, Y, and Z. But then it was like, well, the same people who I was saying was a target customer for that are coming into the founder circle with no problem, right? And they're getting great service and great results in this. And so it just became a matter of, are you really holding on to this for your audience, or are you holding on to it for you? And I was holding on to it for me. So the good news is the content isn't just getting thrown away. We're changing the name a little bit. We're going to call it the Fearless Founders Vault, and our current members are getting an option to buy the lifetime pass for the vault. And it's the lifetime pass is something that we will open up to everyone at some point this year at a higher price point than what the members are paying. And then ultimately we have a couple of other plans for that content. And then also with the fast track program, it's like it really just became a capacity issue more than anything else. It's just like the time that it's taking to run the program. So, just kind of I'm sharing vulnerably with you so that you can look vulnerably within. Like, do you have offers up that are not serving you, even if they are driving revenue? Do you have offers up that are cannibalizing your other programs that are more scalable? Do you have offers up where it's just a safety net, but it's time for you to evolve. It's time for you to go deeper into your niche. It's time for you to go deeper into your program promise, right? So that's something I want you to think about. And then the last piece is, and if you have questions, if you're watching live and you have questions, and now is a great time to drop those questions in the chat. But the last big thing that I'm learning is just like, efficiency and optimization are like always top priority. The questions went from what's the best way to do this, right? When it came to the Founder Circle, which is a group coaching experience, it's a group coaching experience, and it's an amazing group coaching experience, by the way. The question when I was initially creating it over a year ago, and we've since had 6 cohorts come through, was what's the best way to deliver this? What does this actually look like? And now the question is more, is this the most efficient way to do this? And when I say that, I'm really thinking about technology. I'm thinking about touch points. I'm thinking about measurement. I'm thinking about external people in terms of bringing on staff to help out. At some point right now, we don't need it, but in a year, yeah. And people who are currently in the program know that like I'm actively like creating things to make their journeys easier. So I'm not even thinking about efficiency for me. I'm thinking about efficiency for them. How fast can I help them get launched? How can I speed up the process? So just last month, before the new cohort came in or the new group came in, I added 20 templates. in one of the modules around like just like things that coaches need, right? And initially it was just like, oh, coaching, intake forms and onboarding letters and note taking things. But then I added a whole other section on like payment plans and all of this stuff. And so really, again, it's a lot of copy and paste stuff, but it's on purpose because I'm thinking through, okay, well, if a coach is getting started and they need to figure out their onboarding experience and all of that, and they have to figure out what to say in all of these different emails, it's going to slow them down, maybe even add an extra week to their period of getting ramped up. So if I give them templates, they can cut that down. They can get this done in 2 hours versus 7 days. And so again, I'm always thinking about efficiency from how fast can I get my clients profitable and getting that ROI, but then also on our back end, how can we ensure that we're doing the most, we're being the best with efficiency. And like one thing that I'm comfortable with this program, with scaling it and with bringing in people, even though we still are very quality over quantity type of group, is we have built the perfect system to ensure that everyone still gets the appropriate amount of individualized attention, and we're still checking in, everyone's still getting feedback. And so I love that I feel like I finally have the space, like for real, the space to focus a lot of my time on optimization, on efficiency, on creating new playbooks, on creating new templates. And so I'm just really excited about that. But this is something that had to come at this time. This is something that couldn't have came last year, right? When the program was called Jumpstart and it was brand new. Like sometimes we want to jump to the last chapter so fast and we don't like respect the process. And I'm not suggesting that your process will take a full year. It doesn't have to. It's not about the actual timing. It's just about the placement, right? Like sometimes we don't even service enough people to make sure that the thing that we want to scale works before we try to jump to the scale piece. Sometimes we don't even test out our marketing enough to make sure it works live before we put it on Evergreen and on automation. And so those types of things, though, when you make those mistakes and you want to jump to the end of the chapter and it's not working, that's what's going to continue to slow you down, because then you're going to keep enrolling in programs that are teaching you things you're not ready for. Like I have to keep it 100 with you. It's like you built all of these automations and all of these funnels and none of them are working. And so again, you make the assumption that, oh, it's my audience not buying. So then you go get in all these programs around ads and you spend all this money on ads and they're not converting because we didn't even spend time vetting the messaging and the marketing and the offer before we even decided to put this stuff on Evergreen. If it doesn't work live, it's not going to work passive, right? I'm not telling you that to discourage you. I'm telling you that to save you some time and some money. Right? You have to start looking at marketing as a series of experiments and remove the ego associated with wanting to say that you are on Evergreen, that you are automated, that you are doing passive income, right? A lot of that is ego in your way. Andrea says, yes, that time consideration has to be explored in the knowledge. I'm dealing with this as I set up one-on-one. Yeah, absolutely. Deja says, this is so timely for me. Yeah, absolutely. Again, like these are just things that, I like to be very transparent about then and now, right? And this is why I leave a lot of my old content up. Like on my podcast, the Brand Your Power podcast, I have episodes up from 2016. I want you to hear that content. I want you to hear what I was doing when I was side hustling, what I was doing to get that first 100K, what I was thinking about, and what tools I was using, so you can compare it to now and know that no, you do not need to do and use everything that I use presently. Go back to then, right? Go back to then and seeing how I was managing my time with the full-time job and how I was navigating it, even how the mindset work I had to do has evolved. So with that being said, I hope that this was helpful for you. I'm going to go ahead and check really quick on my monitor. Okay, it looks like we're pretty good with the questions, so that's perfect. I do thank you for listening to today. If you do want to work with me and you have interest, you can go over to thepowercollective.co/apply. If not, stay connected by joining my Facebook group, The Power Circle, over on Facebook. We definitely have a lot of cool stuff coming up for that group as well. With that, I will talk to you all in the next episode. Have an amazing day. Bye.